They say don't meet your heroes, and I built you up, and I was thinking I'm gonna be disappointed, but you completely blew me out of the water. I was freaking out going in there, and you greeted me like an old friend. I was like, oh, does he know me? But and I was almost in tears walking out because I've been watching you since 2005 when you first appeared, and I was like, I love it. Thank you so much. My question is this. Since I got mushy, I would hope you would answer it. Your favorite companion, is it Rose, is it Martha, or is it Donna? Come on now. They're not here.
Sure, because that's a question I'm just going to answer.
You are my hero.
That wouldn't get me into any trouble at all. Answer for that. I love them all equally and in their own special, unique way. Yeah? Come
That's
on.
the forced answer.
Did you ever, as the series progressed, did you know where the direction was going with your relationship with your companions, or did it kind of evolve as you went with it? Or was it always like, there'll be a little, tingle of romance with Rose and all that sort of stuff?
Well, with Rose, that was already the deal, I suppose. So I knew what I was inheriting there, and I think that was, I suppose vaguely you'd know, there was a sort of broad brushstroke that the Rose Doctor thing was a kind of a love story, without certain elements of a traditional love story. It was, they were basically sort of star-crossed lovers, I suppose, and then Martha was the girl that he would never see because he was, he just couldn't see her that way, and it was a slightly sort of unrequited love affair. We knew that was kind of the story we were telling, and then we knew that with Donna, that was absolutely not the story we were telling. So that was the kind of broad kind of brushstrokes, and then of course each script would come in and would take that story and develop it in a slightly different way. But I guess because with each of the three, from my point of view, they were there for that year, and there was a new companion at the start of each season. So there was a kind of clear direction, I suppose, with each one. Yeah, and that story, each version of that had a very different sort of flavour. Each of the relationship. Which was great from an acting point of view. It gives you, a different thing to play. A different sort of palette to enjoy, I suppose.
I was just doing that so you wouldn't have to answer his question.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right over here. Hello.
Hi. In Good Omens, there are rather a lot of things on fire, so I was wondering how that was. Yeah.
Including my hair.
Yes.
This is what I've got right here for, in case anyone. I'm doing a thing called Good Omens, which is it's a novel written by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. Terry Pratchett is unfortunately no longer with us, but Neil Gaiman is the showrunner, so he's there every day. He's written the script, and we're right in the middle of shooting it at the moment, and it's about, I don't know, clearly some people know the story, but for those of you who don't, it's about, there's a copy of the book, pass it round. It's about a demon and an angel who both lived on Earth forever, and who have become sort of best friends, although they don't admit it to themselves even. And between them, they decide to avert the apocalypse. The Antichrist has been delivered to Earth, and they decide to try and make sure that he doesn't come into his full power, because they quite like living on Earth, and they like doing things that demons and angels aren't supposed to like drinking wine and having fine dinners and quite enjoying themselves. So that's really what the story is about. And yes, lots of things go on fire. Some of which has been happening for real, other bits which will be added cleverly by people with computers afterwards. But it's been quite a dramatic shoot. There's lots of stuff. It's a big old crazy epic novel, and every day there's a sort of new deal with sort of things exploding and prosthetic heads and special effects, and it's quite epic. There's been more smoke than fire. The fire tends to get added in afterwards. Although just before we finished, before Christmas, we
Bookshop, right?
Yeah, you know stuff. How do you?
I read read the book.
But that's exactly what we did on the last day.
I know. Neil Gaiman has a Twitter account. Yeah.
If anyone else did that, they'd get sacked. But I guess we can't sack Neil Gaiman, so he can tell everyone what to do. So yeah, we set fire to some stuff. It was fun. Yeah.
Thank you. Over here?
Hi, David. First, I just wanted to say thank you for when you did Doctor Who. You gave something that I could share with my son, and that was just absolutely fantastic. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
But my question to you is this. We know you've done Hamlet, and that's kind of the big thing that everybody says they want to do in theater. Is there something else that you have up on your list of things that you absolutely have to do?
You always don't want to say it out loud, because then if you don't do them, it comes back to bite you in the arse. There's a few, I suppose, but I feel like I've done pretty well. I feel quite content with the sort of things I've knocked off my bucket list. So, there are other plays I'd like to do. That I'd certainly like to do some more Shakespeare at some point. But I don't know exactly which one. Don't want to jinx it. Yeah, lots of things. But then you're also looking for the thing you don't know yet. I didn't know. I'm ashamed to say I didn't know the novel Good Omens until I got sent the script, and I thought, where has this been all my life? This is the most fantastic part and the most extraordinary story. So, you're always sort of hopeful that something like that is just going to appear and present you with this part you never knew you wanted to play so much. So I just keep my fingers crossed that will keep happening, I guess.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How did you feel about Kilgrave? I love that you was Kilgrave.
Well, thank you.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, I quite loved being Kilgrave. It was fun. It was just, again, I didn't know the Alias comic books until that came about, and then I read them and thought, these are just, I've always loved Marvel comics, but I'd not come across that particular set of books. You sort of read something, this is just one of those incredible worlds that's been created, and the way it uses the kind of mythology of the Marvel universe and turns it on its head and takes it somewhere new, and then uses this character who's been around since Daredevil issue 4, created by the magnificent Stan Lee, who's just vacated this stage. And yet it takes that character. Two people over the course of this weekend have come up with actual issues of Daredevil issue 4 and had me sign them. That's amazing. That's got to be pretty rare, right? So this character's been around for all these years, and yeah.
I got to dedicate this question to my sister, whose birthday it is, and she couldn't be here today. She loves you a lot.
Oh.
So,
what's her name?
Rebecca.
Happy birthday, Rebecca!
So, as you being a fan of Doctor Who from an early age, correct?
Yes.
How did it feel to then become so deeply ingrained into the show today, and not only in the show itself, but also in your personal life?
It's just weird. No, it is weird. Because you sort of grow up with something, and I had a poster of Tom Baker on my wall. That he'd signed on the bottom. He came to John Mingus, which was a bookshop in Glasgow. Woo for a bookshop in Glasgow! He came to John Menzies at 1970, I'm not quite sure what, and he signed books, and I went along and I got the Doctor Who Monster book, which had a poster in the middle, and Tom Baker signed it. Also in the queue that day, I have since found out, was Stephen Moffat, would you believe? Also getting something signed. And then I only recently found out that there was somebody who missed it, who came too late with his book and didn't get signed that day. Peter Capaldi turned up late. So yeah, it's quite weird that three of us, Doctor Who has ended up in quite a large part of our life. We're nearly in the same queue in John Menzies that day. So yes, it's odd. It's odd that something that you loved and that you know that inspired me. And it's certainly Stephen and Peter and myself. I think it's fair to say that to a greater or lesser extent, that television program inspired us to go into the career that we've gone into. And we've all ended up being in it, and it's all been a huge part of our life. And it's odd, it's weird, because you move from being something that you loved and sort of indulged a passion for and bought books on and put posters on your wall for, to something that you then have a responsibility for in some sense. And it's quite surreal, and it keeps being quite surreal. Even now it's quite surreal. But then once you start doing it, you just have to sort of, you spend a few days going, this is weird, that's the TARDIS, I get to go in it. This is all quite vertiginous. And yet, then you just have to sort of get on with it, actually. And you sort of go, well, I just have to learn this scene and do this scene and do the best I can. So it sort of transitions into something else. Which doesn't stop it being weird, but it does mean when you've got a sort of daily job of it, you have to just get on with it. It doesn't mean you stop loving it. It doesn't make it any less special. It just makes it special in a very different way, and something that's, I think, for all of us who are in the queue at John Menzies, feel the same way, I think. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to say that you have been the hugest big deal in my life since I started watching you, which you actually helped me become who I am.
Well, thank you.
And I just wanted to ask you something kind of similar to Rose Tyler. How did it feel to lose her as a companion?
Do you mean, are you asking me in my capacity as an actor on set with someone, or are you asking me in terms of how the character felt about it?
How the character felt.
Okay. Well, that's easy because I've seen the episode, so I remember. Well, he was devastated. You know, I think Rose had helped him reform himself. I think Rose had influenced who he became when he regenerated into me. I think she sort of, her influence was very formative for the Doctor having come out of this terrible war and all these extraordinary awful things that he'd been through and that he'd borne witness to. And I think she helped him recover, helped him become the man that he became, he refound. And to lose her was devastating. And yet, as ever for the Doctor, kind of inevitable. That's part of that tragedy of that character, that he's sort of, every relationship that he forms with anyone other than a Time Lord, and of course there were none of them left, was by its very nature transient, because he's effectively eternal next to a human being who might get 100 years if they're lucky. So that's part of that's one of the sort of tragedies of that character. I think makes him so sort of timeless. So yeah, to lose Rose, the woman who'd helped him rebuild who he was, and the woman who he'd almost dared to fall in love with. I think it was devastating for him, and something that it took him a long time to get over. And maybe he never did. He certainly never quite got over it while he was me.
Thank you.
Hi, my question is about Jessica Jones.
Sure.
Do you wish that Jessica would have tried harder to rehabilitate Kilgrave? And if she had, instead of betraying him, do you think he actually had the capacity to be good? If she would have helped?
Yes, she was frankly lazy, Jessica.
I
She just put in a bit more effort.
agree. She said that she was going to help him, and then
She said she was going to help me, and did she?
No.
To be fair, he's a bit of a monster.
But
playing a character like that, because it is a sort of fascinating conundrum. If everyone in the world acquiesces to your every demand, I don't know that any one of us could maintain a kind of mental equilibrium. I don't know that any of us could remain sane, basically. Because how do you know if anyone is doing something because around you because they choose to, as opposed to because they are compelled to? And if you have no way of monitoring that, then you have no way of existing as a normal, fully functioning adult human being. And if Jessica had only recognised that and cut him a bit of slack, but I think that's one of the juicy things about that character, because how can he be normal, and how can he know when he's being a monster? He still is a monster. He's still there's very little about him that's easy to love, and of course his very obsession with Jessica is because he can't make her bend to his will, and that becomes something that will ultimately become his downfall. And he probably deserved to die. I think that's fair to say.
First of all, I would like to say that I am a really huge fan of you, and it's an honor to talk to you right now.
Oh, thank you so much.
So, my question is, what inspired you to be an actor?
Well, telling stories is what inspired me to be an actor, and watching stories, and when I was very young, which is when I decided I wanted to do it, even before I really understood what that meant, it was watching shows on TV, and in no small part it was shows like Doctor Who. It was that kind of escape, that kind of sort of release into a world of sort of possibilities, and that inspired me. So shows like Doctor Who, shows like those shows that I watched as a kid, and that idea kind of matured with me, I guess, as I watched sort of more, for want of a better word, adult stuff. But I never stopped watching things like Doctor Who, and then I started going to theatre and being influenced by that. So the notion of being an actor kind of grew up alongside me. But the initial thing was being excited by stories on TV. That was where I first saw actors. That was where I first understood the idea of what it was to be an actor.
How evil do you think the Lord Commander is going to be in Final Space?
Oh, wow. Well, all I know is at the end of any Final Space recording session, I can barely talk. There's a lot of screaming! He shouts a lot. He's very angry. I don't know if that makes him more evil. He's certainly angrier than any of those other characters. Well, you'll have to wait and see. I haven't seen any of it finished, so I don't really know.
This is a huge deal to get to talk to you.
Oh, thank you.
So a few years ago, Doctor Who magazine, the subscribers chose you as the most popular and the best Doctor. Well, what was your reaction to that? Like when you found that out, like how did you react to saying, "Oh wow, they really love me"?
Obviously it's lovely to have any sort of recognition at all. I think though I was in the show at the time, which definitely gives you an advantage for things like that. I suspect if you did it now, Peter Capaldi would probably win. Yes, he would. Because I think that's...
Well, at the time, Matt Smith was also in the running for it, and he came in second place.
Oh, but he probably only just taken over or something. I don't know the details. But... listen, it's lovely. It's so lovely to get to do a show like that, and to have any sort of recognition or success in it is all you can hope for, really. So it was a wonderful time, and I loved it. And if just as I grew up, when I was a kid and I grew up with Doctor Who, Tom Baker, and then indeed Peter Davison, who I still see. When they were the Doctor, to me, that was such an important kind of character in my life, and the person that sort of that portrayed that was someone that you know, I just sort of, you know, I queued up to meet Tom Baker because he was the Doctor, and that was exciting and wonderful, and that's, I'm sure Tom and Peter would agree, as much to do with the part as anyone who gets the very noble honour of getting to carry that mantle for a while. So I'm delighted to receive things like that. Of course, it's wonderful and flattering and makes you feel terribly humble and excited. At the same time, you're always aware that this part is bigger than any one of us who get to play around in it, and it's just an honour really to be associated with it at all, and to be one of the I nearly said guys, that would have been bad. To be one of the people that get to play this magnificent role, and is, you know, as Jodie is now discovering, it's a wonderful, exciting, thrilling place to be.
Thank you so much, David. We love you.
Very emotional. I was just wondering, how did you prepare yourself for that, and how much of that was purely acting, and how much was that your actual emotions spilling over?
It was a funny thing because it, you know, Doctor Who was such a big thing to be part of, and to leave it was such a big thing. Just because of all the things we've been talking about, that sense of everything being kind of, it being a sort of national story. You know, who's taking over? You can't help but be aware of the kind of magnitude. Sounds a bit pompous, but just it feels like quite a big thing leaving a show like that. And having worked with people that you've grown to love and care for and enjoy working with, it was the day that we recorded that final scene was just naturally a very emotional time. So there wasn't a lot of sort of having to get oneself into the zone particularly. It felt sort of genuinely quite emotional anyway. And in actual fact, that very final moment where the Doctor sort of says, "I don't want to go," we did several times, and it was actually a question of reining it back a bit, because it naturally felt terribly sad. And we did sort of different versions where we kind of modulated from it being very unemotional to being really sort of a bit too emotional, frankly. And I think what you see on screen is somewhere in between the two. So yes, it was, didn't take a lot of preparation particularly. It was kind of a, for free that day.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm really nervous. I never got to talk to you.
Don't be nervous, there's nobody here.
Of all the adventures you went on playing as the Doctor, which was your favorite to film and why?
Oh, it's funny having favourites. I try not to have favourites really, just because they were all so different, and each episode was so, you know, there's a new cast in each episode, you're in a new place. It's not like most shows where you sort of, oh, it's the cafe set, or the bus set, or the whatever else. You know, every episode was completely different, and apart from maybe the one person that you were going through the series with, there was a whole new bunch of friends to play with. So I enjoyed filming them all for all different reasons, and each one felt very different, and it feels a bit wrong to compare them. It feels a bit like choosing between your children, which you're not meant to do. So I try not to have favourites, because it feels somehow weirdly disloyal. I love them all.
All right, we have time. You guys are quick, so we'll do one more question. Right over here.
Can you give us any insights on how Angus ended up in Spain?
Oh, I had no idea what you were talking about. Go on. Has anyone seen Ferdinand? No, not me. Come on, still in cinemas. Yes, I play a Scottish Highland bull in Ferdinand the Bull, the movie. And yes, he's in Spain. Well, it's as likely he's in Spain as some enormous bull played by an American sports star, right? I mean, you know.
Well, I don't know how any of them ended up there, but I'm very glad they did, because it's a beautiful story and it's beautifully told. So I'm just very, very honoured to be part of that. It's a great film. You should see it. If you haven't seen it, go and see Ferdinand.
Yes,
All right, everyone, this is not your last opportunity to hang with David. If you head down to his booth, he'll be there at 3:30, photo ops and autographs, and you're out of